Hey, time for another out of this world story. A 34 male ghosted my fiance, 33 female, after she asked for a temp open relationship before her wedding, and then she cheated when I said no. I have rewritten this a few times in an attempt to shorten, but our history goes back since we were kids. I'm looking for some advice as to what to do when I get home in 2 days. I'm changing all names, obviously very sorry for the length of this monster. Jen and I had been friends since we were kids. Our parents were lifelong friends. We grew up together and started dating in our teens. It was like it was almost expected by our families. They had more plans for us than we did. When I was going for my master's, I had to move to another city, and Jen remained in our hometown, working on our nursing degree after a year of long-distance relationship. We decided to remain friends and not have the pressure of our relationship control us. We both remained best friends and we both dated other people. It was weird because we both always knew this was temporary and we would end up back together at some point. I graduated and stayed in the city. I got my master's in and started working in my field. I waited for a transfer back to my hometown, and when I got it, I was so happy. Jen was in a long-term relationship and he was a nice fellow, but I always got the feeling he was weary of our friendship. I understood the vibe and stepped back out of respect. Although she and I would talk several times a year, my boss and mentor I would call Paul 44. Male was a great guy and we became good friends. He taught me the ropes and one day came down from the ivory tower and wanted to talk. He explained there was an open position in a foreign city for 2 years and it would be advertised shortly. He explained the position, and even though the money wasn't huge, all expenses, such as rent, hotel, and expenses related to travel, were covered. Basically, I would be based in Tokyo and have to travel once in a while to other Asian cities for a few days here and there. I thought about it, talked to my friends and parents, Paul said. It was a position, but would be a great opportunity to prove myself and climb the ladder. I thought, why not? I could save most of my salary and gain valuable experience, Paul said. He would speak to the old man, and if I wanted it, he would recommend me, he explained. He himself did something similar years ago, and it helped his career, so off I went. The first year was horrible, getting used to the culture and social rules not only in Japan, but the other countries I would visit for work. One thing that surprised me was how available women were everywhere I went. They loved foreigners. I got to sample the delights of the Orient. These weren't third world women. Most of them were highly educated. I had many friends with benefits and clearly told all of them. I wasn't interested in long-term or marriage, as I only was staying temporarily. I ended up doing 2 more years. Paul would visit several times a year on vacation or to supervise some work, and I will admit we had some greasy times in a few cities. Angeles City in the Philippines and a few others. Contract was over and I went back home, put a nice down payment on a house just outside the city after living in a city of 37 million. I needed some space. I was home for a month. And while visiting my parents, Jen was there. She and the other guy had broken up a year ago, and we started talking more seriously, even though we always had contact over the years. We started dating again. I held off having sex as much as I wanted because I was afraid really of what would happen. I had developed an addiction of having various partners while in Asia and was trying to control that desire before Jen and I got serious. I mean, everyone, including Jen, knew I dated. But on social media, there would be infrequent photos of me and different women. My mother called me a master a few times, and, well, to be truthful, it kind of stung now is when things start to fall apart. Jen and I slept together, and for a lack of a better word, she was very surprised. She said I was different and was never like that before. She meant it, like I had gained a lot of experience, to put it nicely. She asked me some questions, and I admit I did trickle. Truther, I didn't tell her the exact number, because even if it was divided by 3, it was scary. I had no doubt that I was and could be faithful to her. The seed I had inadvertently put in her mind that night would create some serious issues later. Now, of course, our families were thrilled. We were together. It was always supposed to be this way. We were doing great, and after speaking to her parents, I proposed, she moved in, and everything was great. There were what I thought were some red flags, like asking if I was happy with her. Fast forward to December of 2019, wedding was planned June of 2020. We all know how 2020 went. Don't we? Christmas was great, and close to New Year's, we would have the first D-Day. I was sitting down doing some work on the PC, and Jennifer cousin Tammy, 32, female. We're looking through some wedding stuff. I have also known Tammy since we were kids, and we were cool. Jen asks if we can talk, and Tammy walks into the living room and sits on the sofa. I want to sit at the table to talk to Jen. She starts by saying for me to not interrupt or freak out. She wants to talk about something. She then explains our difference in the bedroom and says she believes I wouldn't be satisfied with her, and eventually I would cheat on her, and she didn't want our future children and relationship to be ruined if I stray. So here I was thinking, great, I'm about to get dumped. Just as I am thinking things can't get worse, I hear the infomercial guy in my head. But wait, there's more. Jen asked me if I was willing to open the relationship so she could gain more experience and it would help her feel less insecure. She states, I should not be worried as I am the only man she ever loved. And that's why none of her relationships had ever led to marriage. I did agree with her on that point, as I felt the same now. Of course, I think this is a joke, and she is not serious at all. This really can't be happening, right? Since this was a year and a half ago, I will try my best to recall the main points. She says she will only be with random people and never with someone we know or work with. It won't happen with the same person twice, and no emotional connection. I was like, what the F? When I realized she wasn't joking, I lost my breath. Didn't think it was possible for a heart to skip a beat and jump to the center of my throat. I'm not an angry or violent person, but now I'm yelling. I'm starting to understand why Tammy stuck around close by. I yelled, Tammy, did you put her up to this? Tammy says, she's just there to support Jen. Wow, thanks so much. So, then Jen says, I'm free to do as I wish under the same rules. And I said no. I'm so pissed at this point, and even writing this now, I am raging. I then said, I don't want one-night stands. I just want one person, she says, who I looked at Tammy and not in the eyes and said, I want to have Tammy. Now I get a rise out of Jen. And Tammy wasn't expecting that, and she's a bit red in the face and now uncomfortable. Jen says, no, she is family and someone we both know, and it is gross for me to even suggest it. I'm now totally in bizarro world. Where the hell did this come from? We argued back and forth for a bit, and I told her if she does this, the relationship is over. I'm totally against this, and I love her, and we can work through everything together, but not this. I stormed off, grabbed my pillow, and went to the guest room. I could hear them downstairs for a bit, but couldn't hear what they were saying. It would have been a hilarious joke if it didn't last for an hour of conversation. I didn't sleep all night and was a bag of crap at work the next day. Jen started 2 weeks of night shifts that day, so at least we wouldn't be home together for that time, and we could both cool down and revisit this later. Dinner would be in the fridge for me every day with an I love you note. She would text frequently, but I kept my answers short. Thursday night of the next week of her night shift, I go to the PC to work over some files, and I notice an email notification on her account, and it's a hotel reservation for a good hotel that's close to my office. I know it well. As I go often with coworkers, I'm thinking, she's supposed to be working, but maybe she wants to apologize and take me for a night out the next morning. I'm waiting for her text or call to invite, but only asking me how my day was. Then she says she's so happy she only has to work one more night of the night shift. How does she have one more night and a hotel reservation? I was sick, stressing in my office, started looking through some dating sites, especially profiles with no pics. I can't find anything. Paul pops in and asks me if I want to go for lunch, and sees I'm a mess. He asks what's up, and I tell him Paul is hard. Men go their own way, but has always supported my relationship with Jen. He suggests we go get lunch at some hotel restaurant and ice cream. No, not that place. He didn't know that part. We actually go for lunch, and I am sick to my stomach. Can't eat. Don't even want to drink, he says. I can't work like this, and I can take as much leave as I can, paid and unpaid if needed. I told him I can't be there at my house anymore. I can't see her, and a part of me wants to believe it isn't true. I rush home and put as much of my crap in my car as I can and go back to the office. Paul says, let's go stake out the hotel and wait for her to check in. I mean, I am no PR detective. I am more like Inspector Clouseau. I was really resisting this, but I really had to know. So we go set up in the lounge bar, and I start pounding them back and waiting, still hoping this wasn't real. Around 6:30, Paul taps me on the shoulder, and there she is, the front desk and not in uniform. I want to strangle her, scream, spit, cry. I don't know. We wait for 10 minutes after she gets in the elevator, and Paul and I walk to the front desk. I ask the reception to put me through the Jen blank blank room, and it rings as soon as she answered. I just started yelling at the receiver and sounded confused. Jen, I told you if you did this it would be over. I am done. Wedding off, relationship over, and I hung up and got my butt out of there. Now where to go? I went back to Paul's, and now my phone is lighting up. The only person I called was my dad, and I explained in PG-rated terms what happened, and I need to leave town for a bit. It wasn't a discussion, and I feel bad for how I spoke to my old man. Phone didn't stop for 2 days. Everyone under the sun called me, and I didn't answer. I didn't know what to do. The only way I could explain how I felt was like walking around underwater. Paul mentioned some financial things I should deal with to protect myself. I wasn't even thinking about that. The house wedding loans for the car. We kept separate accounts, and one for the wedding and one for house-related bills. I couldn't care less. The next day, I emailed Jen and said this would be our last contact, and I was leaving the city for a while, and the wedding and everything else was off. I called my dad back and spoke with him at length, and while he was crushed, he understood I needed time and space. He said he still hopes that we could work it out 10 days later. I boarded a plane and traveled to Bali. I never answered any of her or anyone's messages or emails. I don't know if she left the hotel that night or stayed. I didn't care. I eventually landed in Bali and climbed into a bottle for the next month and went offline with the exception of my dad, and work didn't even care if I got fired. I wish I could say I enjoyed myself, but was mostly just drunk. I felt a lot of rage and shame and hate about how things went down. I kept in touch with Paul about my leave, and after 3 weeks he asked if I could run back to Tokyo to look after some things. We talked about the new global virus, and I mentioned coming back to Canada to settle things there, as I was hearing rumors of potential lockdowns. I got to Tokyo on March 1st, and it felt good to get back to work, even if it was just a little after hearing lockdowns were coming. Paul mentioned me getting back to Canada, but I said, meh, it's only going to be 30 or 60 days. I need some time to plan my next move. 30 to 60 days of me. I was still in Japan for another year before I got vaccinated, but by this time I didn't really want to go home. My house was rented out and I was talking to family, but refused any info about Jen. On September 21st, I received news. My dad had a heart attack and was doing well, but would need a triple bypass. This surgery is serious, not as serious as it was 40 years ago, but I still wanted to see him, and just in case, I know when I get home, it is just going to turn into a crap show, and I really didn't want that. I just want to see my folks and thank Paul for all he has done for me, even as selfish as I was, but I know I'm going to have to see her, and I have no idea how I'm going to feel or think. I'm so sorry for the length of this. Even still, I left a lot out. Any advice, tips, or insults would be appreciated. I'm flying out in 4 hours and will land in about 24 hours. Update after landing. I went to see my dad. He's looking good and actually looking forward to a surgery. Mama's doing well, but obviously I feel quite slighted. The old man looks at me and leans in. Listen, kid, I know you had some problems with your woman, so let me give you some advice. He says some guy's name. He is quoting. I don't know if I'm remembering word for word, but this is the gist of it. God gives women eyebrows and she plucks them out and draws on new ones. God gives a woman a face and she paints on a new one over it. God gives her breasts and she buys a push-up water bra. God gives her a form, and still not satisfied, she buys slim-fitting clothes to change that form. If God himself cannot please her, then how can you, brother? Please don't kill yourself. Well, that kind of blew my mind a bit, I must say. Old man looks at Paul. I can trust you to handle this properly. Your mother will kill me if I have to fire you. So now it kind of hits me. They are effing related. Paul and I walk out, and I look at him and say, 20, man. Really? He puts his arm around me and says, don't worry about that. I got you covered. So am I getting fired or disciplined? No, dumbass, you're getting promoted. And he puts his arm around me and kisses me on the side of the head. You could have told me that beforehand, you dick. Nah, it was much funnier this way. I missed you, kid. Now let's go get fed up. It's 8:30 in the morning, Paul. Who does that? I do. You still have a lot to learn about enjoying life. Doesn't surprise me with this guy, really. What should I expect from someone who got all liquored up before Onsaki and got into a fist fight with a monkey, got his ass kicked as well, I might add, at the hot springs in Japan? We did end up getting pissed up. We talked about work and what was going to happen. We talked about Jen, and he advised me that I really should meet her and get closure, he said. We both did stupid things, but we are good people. Once I get closure, then I will be able to move forward in my future without an anchor of emotion holding me back, he said. Once that is resolved, then we can talk about my employment future, what I want to do and where I want to go. So that was checked off the list. At least I still have a job. That is looking good. There is still a matter of Jen, which has been consistently in my thoughts. I unblocked her on Facebook and scrolled through to prepare me for what was to come. I sent to PM and asked if we could meet for dinner. Sometime soon. We only exchanged pleasantries and are meeting for dinner in the next few days. That will be my next update. Jen and I agreed to meet at a restaurant a few hours after she got off work. Now going into this, I was afraid of two things: that my anger would remain and I would act accordingly, or my love for her would remain and I would act accordingly. I was hoping to find a comfortable median in the gray area. All my plans flew out the window the moment she walked through the door. She looked wonderful. She smiled and walked over, and my stomach was in my throat. I wasn't this nervous when we lost our virginity together. We shared a short, awkward hug, and I could smell my favorite perfume on her. Is she about to love Bombay or play some emotional tricks? Is she in another relationship and here to show me what I missed? No rings on her finger. Even the one I gave her, we talked about my dad first, and she told me she always checked in on him when she was on shift and assured me his surgeon for the upcoming bypass was one of the best we cook around small talk. Like her extreme workload during the pandemic and what I experienced during lockdown in Tokyo, I was seriously getting ready to crack. I can assure you I was calm and collected on the outside, but falling apart underneath. I told myself I needed this to consolidate these feelings in order to move on. Finally, it seemed we were dancing around the elephant in the room for a painful amount of time. And she finally looked at me, and her face changed. The whole conversation after that is a blur. I will recount it to the best of my ability. First, I want to tell you how sorry I am for what happened and for hurting you. Are you sorry you got caught, or actually sorry for how you hurt me? Of course, I'm sorry for what it did to you, what it did to our lives and our future. I threw it away because of my insecurity. So did you plan it because of your insecurity, or you secretly wanted to punish me for the people I was with? When we weren't a couple, maybe both, but let me say that any other man that was in my life before we were engaged, I never loved. Like I loved you, Tim. Her ex before me cheated on me because he always told me that he could never compete with the feelings I had with you. We broke up for that reason. I did not know this, and to be honest, I never felt bad. He cheated. I never wanted you to know I was going to sleep with another man. I thought I could emotionally detach from it. And even if you found out, we could work through it. Like everything we ever experienced before, you thought very wrong. It was probably the most painful thing I have ever experienced. I didn't need you to be perfect or experienced. I just needed you to be mine, all of them, Jen. Every single one could never add up to what I felt with you. But now I am thinking, was it a real feeling, or the projection of the dream of us that our family wanted, or the fantasy we expected? It started to get emotional, and Jen excused herself and went to the washroom to collect herself. We were in a good. I stood in front of you, loving you and protecting you for whatever would come at us. But this time, when I stood in front of you, giving you everything I had, you stick a knife in my back, just like the frog in the scorpion. This statement really hit her like a bolt, and she lowered her head and sobbed a bit. I wasn't finished. I needed to get it